Once again, Pensacola made national news when on April 22, 1902, the military ordered a court-martial here to decide the fate of U.S. Marine Corps Captain Bertram Stansberry Neumann. Normally, this story would be so insignificant as to barely raise an eyebrow in American history. But although it was never a front-page headline, it certainly was covered by hundreds of newspapers across the country. But what did Captain Neumann have to do with Pensacola to begin with? The Marine in question was born on October 20, 1868 in Bellevue, New Jersey, and the son of architect Albert Carl Neumann and Margaret Rebecca Rutan. He entered the U.S. Naval Academy at Annapolis on May 22, 1885. In those days, their course of study was 5 years instead of 4, but only the first and last were spent in the classroom, with the other 3 at sea. In 1890, he is listed as an apprentice aboard the training ship USS Boston. In 1891, he was found attached to the Squadron of Evolution, aboard the flagship USS Chicago in the European station. The squadron was comprised of the new Navy ships, thus its name. After graduation, he chose duty with the U.S. Marines and thereby was stationed in 1893 aboard the USS Charleston with the North Atlantic Fleet as a lieutenant. All was well until 1896 when problems arose with his wife Catherine Kate M. Lawson. After Bertram graduated from the academy, he and Kate had married on November 10, 1891 in Baltimore, Maryland. Kate came from a very influential family, and whose father, U.S. Army Colonel Gaines Lawson, had been a Civil War veteran. But in 1895, while Bertram was aboard the USS Charleston in Japan, Kate filed for a divorce on grounds of non-support. On February 4, 1896, the hearing was held in Perry, Oklahoma. After lengthy testimony, the hearing had to be postponed awaiting corroborative evidence from New York City. After swearing to their marriage in 1891, she stated he has been gone the entire time she had lived in Washington and New York. But in late 1894, Bertram ordered the U.S. Navy Treasurer to discontinue her monthly allotment. Since that time, he has not contributed 1 cent to her support. After their marriage, he had sent her to his family in New York to live with them. She also stated that Bertram and his relatives hired detectives who hounded her everywhere she went. When she finally had enough, she went to live with her father, at which time Bertram deleted her military allotment. The divorce was granted on April 25, 1896. In the meantime, whether because of his domestic difficulties or not, Bertram was transferred to the Marine Barracks in New York by 1897. At the outbreak of the Spanish-American War in April 1898, he was assigned to the USS Yosemite, where it was said he was operating in a clandestine operation off Cuba. After the war, Bertram is listed as being attached to the Marine Barracks in Pensacola, Florida, in 1899. He would resurface in 1900 aboard the new battleship USS Kentucky, BB-6, as a first lieutenant. From 1900 until 1902, he was stationed in Pensacola, Florida, as a Marine Corps captain. Now that his relationship with Kate was over, he settled down to military life at the Navy Yard in Warrenton. His specific duties concerned the acquisition of supplies for military use from the local civilian merchants. And that's where the problem occurred in March 1901. At that time, Bertram purchased $800 worth of merchandise from a local African-American storekeeper, Benjamin Dolphin. Ben owned a small grocery in Warrenton, where he regularly supplied food to the Navy. One of his transactions involved Captain Neumann, who reportedly completed the vouchers for the purchase. The money trail showed that the money was drawn but never reached Ben. There is no record of the verbal interaction between Ben and the captain, but surely there was. When the money was not forthcoming, Ben contacted a local attorney. The attorney contacted the authorities in Washington, who sent Major Lorchheimer to investigate the matter. Upon release of his findings, Washington ordered a court-martial. The military obviously thought it serious enough that they summoned Marine Corps Sergeant Howell, as far away as China, to appear in Pensacola for the hearing. As for the press release, the military stated that Captain Neumann was being charged with financial irregularities and failure to pay his debts. However, the official charges was 1. Scandalous conduct tending to the destruction of good morals, 2. Disobeying the order of his superior officer, 3. Falsehood, and 4. Conduct to the prejudices of good order and military discipline. On May 15, 1902, Captain Neumann arrived from his temporary station at Norfolk, Virginia Naval Base and met with his defense counsel. Upon the completion of the hearing on May 19, 1902, the court found Captain Neumann guilty of the charges and ordered him dismissed from the Marine Corps. With Kate now gone and his military career over, Bertram went to work for his maternal uncle Lyndon Smith Rutan. The C.B. Rutan and Company was founded by Lyndon's brother Clarence Brush Rutan in West Orange, New Jersey, only 7 miles from Bertram's hometown of Newark. The city of Orange was the hat manufacturing capital of the world, with 35 hat factories in Orange alone. By 1907, Bertram was the superintendent of the factory and was living at the Robert Guilford Hotel at Main and Essex Street. Although never clarified, his domestic and business problems mounted to the point that he became very depressed. Then, on June 29, 1907, the body of a 38-year-old man was found shot in a quarry on Mill Street in Belleville, New Jersey, 4 miles from Orange. The body was identified as Bertram. As for Benjamin Dolphin, he was born in August 1858 in Alabama, the son of Jacob and Minerva Dolphin. He would marry Emma Forbes on February 19, 1880 in Pensacola. By 1898, he had opened a grocery business in Warrington, and it was there he ran into conflict with Captain Neumann in 1902. 16 years later, Ben would pass away and was buried in the old Warrington Cemetery at Woolsey. Although not confirmed, it is highly likely that Emma is buried next to him. As for Kate, there is no indication that she ever remarried. She would move to Beverly Hills, California, prior to 1930 before passing away in Los Angeles in 1941. Upon her death, she was buried in the Congressional Cemetery in Washington, D.C., where her mother is interred. Bertram and Kate's daughter was Catherine Rutan Neumann. She would marry William Warburton Sutton Jr. in 1914, and together they had 4 children. Their oldest child was Kay Sutton, who became a Hollywood movie star. She would go on to star in over 30 movies, including the notable A Star is Born 1937 and Sergeant York 1941.